I don't think it's ever been as prevalent as the Jezebel / entertainment images of women. But I think, remember what I said earlier about control, why they put those 4 images, why they describe them as controlling images. You don't hear a lot about the welfare queen until there's some big, legislator wants to do something with welfare reform, and then you start seeing those images, and that comes back up because it's used to, it's convenient to use that image to control and put fear into people about a certain type of person is going to sap all of the nation's resources. And I think the numbers for women on aid to getting aid for children is such a smaller percentage of what banks and other people get from the government. They get it's so small. But you would think that that group of people, women who need aid from the government, is just astronomical, but it's not so.
Well,
Yes.
I think there may be another explanation for why that image is less apparent. It may have to actually do with the economic climate and how that story is being told right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because in a good economic climate, and again, thinking a little bit like a critical theorist might think, or a race theorist might think, once again, the othering of a group kind of makes an unemployment situation acceptable. But in this current economy, where people who were once white middle class who are no longer employed, they become the new face, and they become the new face of the unemployed, perhaps at the expense of the historically underemployed, and so the story is told that way. And so now, if
I hadn't thought it.
I want to go out and tell the story, it's a more compelling story to tell. If I go find the guy that used to be a mid-level accountant in a company and lost his job, and I'm telling the story through his eyes, because it's a new way to tell the story. And so the historically underemployed, the historical need is kind of pushed aside in favor of the new face or the new image, because it's a different story to tell.
Yeah, you make a good point. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? This is ongoing.
This is maybe a little peripheral to what your research is on, but do you think the Don Imus controversy, you mentioned black rappers use those terms all the time, and it doesn't have the same kind of backlash, but Don Imus goes ahead and does that. There's this huge uproar. Is that kind of representative of the old ideology sort of losing strength, losing power, and maybe this new way of looking at minorities or whatnot, gaining some status or some...
I don't know if I can answer your question, but what I saw happen, the reason why I thought I was fascinated with what happened with the Don Imus situation is because of what Collins and the other sociologists had said about the reason why they call those images controlling images. You have, for one thing, the images can use to control people if certain people have the power, the elite white men in power, authority figures, and that's what Imus represented. So when he said that about the women, it just took on a different meaning. He has all this power. Yes.
I
Okay.
absolutely agree with that. But like 60 years ago, or not 60 years, several years ago, if a white man had said the same thing, it would have been inappropriate, of course, but nobody would have really had the same kind of reaction to it. But now it seems like times are changing a little bit, and that's suddenly not only inappropriate, but it's maybe not representative of the power that they once had. I don't know if that's true or not, but.
Okay, I have to think about that one.
Are you saying kind of like these are the new paradigms people have, and that's why they respond so strongly
Well, that's what
against it?
that's what I'm wondering. Maybe this is.
Maybe people have embraced
And then
it.
60 years ago, the likes of Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton were not organized. They weren't as powerful as they are. And in some of the articles I've read, somebody raised that question, well, why aren't the Reverends Jackson and Sharpton getting on all these rappers for doing the same, worse than Don Imus? He was just, being a shock jock, using his shock words like he always does every day. But he used those, and, they were demanding that he be fired. They put pressure. but they weren't around like you said, 60 years ago. So, yeah, I will say, yeah, things have changed quite a bit, and that's what they've dedicated their careers to doing. They show up at every incident like that, really, good or bad, even if they don't have all the facts. Yes.
I have one other question. Do you foresee doing some future research then that might look at the extent to which Caucasians may still hold on more than African Americans in these two different sets of typologies, that maybe Caucasians still kind of have those earlier four, whereas the shift has been made more fully by African Americans looking at this new kind of paradigm? Or has that work been done before?
That's an interesting question. I don't know what I foresee, but if you got an idea, let me give you a card. I'll look into it. Really, I heard some interesting comments after Monique and Gabrielle Sidibe won their Oscars. I didn't watch it, but I know Monique won something for the movie Precious. And the DJ that's real popular in Memphis, he thinks that they're going to get a lot of roles, but they're going to be very limited in their roles because the Hollywood people are going to want them to do only certain kinds of roles, and they're going to be frustrated. They're going to think that they are now entitled to do a variety of things, but they'll only be, that's what he's predicting, that because of their heavy-set women, brown skin, they'll get roles, but they'll be sought after for certain things. And there's a trend now for heavy set, for the heavy women, and they'll find something for them, but it won't be what they think they should get because they are now Oscar people. That's it. So I think, and that's coming out of Hollywood. So
to go to Mark's question, just to make a suggestion, I just had this thought. It would be really interesting to take the images you use and do Q sorts. Yeah. And see if those. I don't know if you're familiar with Q sort.
You do everything, yeah. From Missouri, my Missouri days, yeah.
Q sort is like a factor analysis, but rather than factor analyzing question items, it factor analyzes respondents. And the real test of this, I think, would be to see if the Q sort solution delineates by race. And that would be a real interesting indication of the degree to which we really have made progress in terms of our multicultural understanding, because if white people tend to cling to the older typology, clearly this typology would reflect a more, I would hope, more modern, more enlightened view of black women, and I would hope that black women would hold this view. But it would be interesting to see if there is some differentiation in how that Q sort solution falls out.
Even by age would be fascinating too, within the gender, age, and also by the race. It'd be interesting if there were real differences in how they uphold these different kinds of typologies.
And we've got Mark Popovich, who's kind of a Q head, coming here soon, I think, to
teach us how to do Q sort.
Well, I've done Q sort, but I've forgotten how.
When is he coming? I might come back to sit in on that.
We got to team up on this.
Come and sit in on that.
But I think that would be the way to test this.
Okay.
Is to take a collection of images that reflect this whole typological range, and have white women do Q sorts and African American women do Q sorts. Place those Q sorts together, run the Q sort, and look at how the solution falls out by age, by race. Even by education, by the socioeconomic factors would be the real telling signs on there.
That's interesting. I'm going to keep that in mind. Yeah, I had a professor at Missouri. We would do Q sorts, but
the other guys would do all the Q heads are in Missouri, I think. So.
Yeah, and I just remember sitting there. It looked like we were playing spades, just cards. But I don't remember really. I just know what it was, kind of why we did it, but. I didn't do anything beyond that. It's one of those classes where you get introduced to all the methodologies. Okay,
I'll make sure we follow up on this.
Okay.
That's fascinating.
Okay. Do we have any more questions?